Hello and welcome, I'm Connor, and this is a story from the subreddit Let's Not Meet called Mr. Jim. Enjoy. When I was 14, I was asked to babysit my 3 younger cousins, aged 8, 4 and 1, in an extremely rural, mountainous part of Pennsylvania. My aunt and uncle had a wedding to go to over an hour away and wouldn't be back until very late. Their house was situated on steep mountainside. Their back deck had a 15-foot drop onto a rocky hill below leading down to a river. Their closest neighbours were about half a mile away. The closest main road was a mile away. And at night there were no lights to be seen anywhere around them. Basically, it was in the middle of nowhere, and you would have to know where you were going to get there. You don't just accidentally end up there. My aunt and uncle left us with some pizza and a cell phone number next to their landline. This was the early 2000s and I didn't have a cell phone, but even if I did, I wouldn't get reception there anyway. And they headed out. The baby was already asleep, and the 4-year-old wasn't feeling well and was quietly watching TV in the living room as he dozed off, and the 8-year-old was playing Guitar Hero with me on the loft. The loft overlooked the living room to the left, where I could keep an eye on the 4-year-old, and there was a huge window that overlooked the driveway to the right. This description of the driveway is an important detail to the story. The road that led to their house ran straight into their forked driveway. It was a dead-end road. The house was as far as you could go. Go to the left driveway, there was a large open carport, and that's where my aunt and uncle, and anyone who ever visited, parked. The right driveway led down a very short but very steep hill to a large leveled out area and ended up against the garage door that opened to the basement of the house. It was never used as a garage, but served as my uncle's man cave, and where he spent most of his time. Right beside the garage door, a normal door with a window so you could see right in, but this driveway was exclusively used by the kids as a play area because it was the only flat, yard-like area on the property. And being on a mountainside, there isn't much room to play safely otherwise. No cars ever drove down there, ever. And there are too many toys and bikes in the way, and my friends and family knew this. It was about 10 PM, pitch black outside, no moon to illuminate the area either. My cousin and I were still playing Guitar Hero when headlights caught the corner of my eye. And not my aunt's minivan headlights. Huge truck headlights with those roof lights you often see on Jeeps or other off-road trucks. Not only that, the truck was going down the right driveway, the kids' play area. This was not my aunt and uncle, and this was not anyone they knew. Panic and dread filled my body. I was a small teenage girl, alone in an isolated house on a mountain, at night, with 3 children in my care. In a terrified voice, I asked my cousin, "Who is that, Jake? Do you know whose truck that is?" And then he looked panicked. "No, I've never seen that truck before," he replied. I quickly ushered him downstairs, still unsure on what to do, but the 2 little ones were sleeping down there, and I wanted to make sure they were safe. I checked on the baby, and then grabbed the phone to call 911, and I started to hear the metal garage door being shaken violently, and no one ever opened that garage door. More panic fills me. I hear them try the door beside it, the metal doorknob jiggling. No one was actually knocking. It's not like they were checking to see if my uncle was down there. Plus, the lights were out. It was dark down there. They knew no one was down there. They were definitely breaking in. The door leading to the basement steps was right next to the phone, so I could clearly hear all of this going on. I quickly turned the little lock on the doorknob just in case they did make it to the basement. My heart was practically jumping out of my chest. I'm talking to the 911 dispatcher as my 8-year-old cousin clings to my arm. The operator is calm and trying to calm me, but I knew it would be at least 30 minutes until the police officer could get here, assuming they didn't get totally lost on this mountainside in the pitch dark. I just kept thinking, we are fucked. We are dead. This is how I die. The operator asked for the number my aunt and uncle left so she could call another dispatcher to call them to let them know the situation. I turned around and grabbed the paper with the number on it, and to my absolute horror, I see a man peering in a large-sided glass door. A huge, burly, what had to have been at least a 6'4" man with long, scraggly red hair and a big red bushy beard. And what made it worse, he was grinning at me. Grinning in a way that still scares me to this day. Meanwhile, I had to have looked like a terrified deer in the headlights. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. There was a second man behind him that I couldn't see as well. I had no idea what he looked like, but he was equally as tall, a bit more lanky than the larger man at the sliding glass door. I screamed, "Oh my God! They're here!" And before the 911 operator could say anything, my 8-year-old cousin goes, "Mr. Jim?" His voice was very confused. It wasn't like my cousin was happy or relieved to see him. And I asked, "You know who that is?" But before my cousin can answer, I turned my attention to the man in the door. "I'm on the phone with the police," I shouted. I'm grateful he didn't try that door, because it was not locked. The man stared at me for a moment, eyebrows furrowed, like deciding what he wanted to do next. But he then just backed away into the darkness. What seemed like an eternity later, I saw the truck lights back out of the driveway, and then back down the road until they disappeared. I was still scared shitless, and so was my cousin. He had only met the guy a few times, an acquaintance of his dad. It wasn't like it was a close family friend, and because again, he went down the wrong driveway. Visitors never go down that way. The 911 operator asked for a description of the man, then told me they'd gotten in touch with my aunt and uncle, and they were on their way home. She stayed on the phone with me until the police officer showed up a bit later to make sure the men were gone, and they stayed with us until my aunt and uncle got home, so they could ask them some questions. My uncle was furious, not at me for calling them home early, but at this Mr. Jim guy. He muttered something like, "I'm going to fuck him up." My aunt was mad at my uncle and told him to tell Jim to never come back. I didn't know at the time, but my uncle had a drug problem. I don't know what Mr. Jim or his accomplice were doing, or what they would have done if I wasn't on the phone with the police, but that grin was not a friendly one. It was sinister, and again, he also had to have known my uncle was not there, because the basement was dark. He would have seen through the windowed basement door. He had also tried lifting the garage door, something not even my uncle did. He intended to break into the basement, that much is clear to me. There is no other explanation. I never did babysit for them again, and I don't think I ever even went back up there, because not long after that, my aunt divorced my uncle and moved out. So, Mr. Jim, the grinning, burly mountain man who tried to break into the house where I was babysitting, let's not meet again.